Maya Chen clutched her datapad tighter as she navigated the impossible architecture of Celestial Academy. The corridors seemed to shift and flow like living things, walls that curved in ways that hurt her Earth-trained eyes to follow. Bioluminescent panels pulsed gently overhead, casting everything in an ethereal blue glow that made her feel like she was walking through an underwater dream. She was already 10 minutes late for her first physical education class, and sweat beaded on her forehead despite the perfectly climate-controlled environment. The Academy's environmental systems maintained a steady 22 degrees Celsius with 45% humidity, ideal for most galactic species, but uncomfortably cool for someone who had grown up enduring Earth's brutal temperature swings. The other students she passed in the halls moved with an almost ethereal grace. Tall, willowy Centaurians glided past on legs that seemed too delicate to support their elongated frames. A group of crystalline Thessians chimed softly to each other in harmonious tones that served as their language. Everyone seemed to belong here except her. Maya's reflection caught her eye in one of the polished wall surfaces. At 5 feet 6 inches, she was considered average height for a human female, but here she felt stocky and dense. Her muscles, developed from years of hiking Earth's mountains and swimming in its turbulent oceans, stood out prominently beneath her Regulation Academy uniform. Where other students appeared delicate and refined, she looked like she had been carved from stone. The physical education complex finally materialized around a corner, its entrance marked by flowing script in 17 different galactic languages. Maya paused to check her translation device, confirming she had found the right place before stepping through the bioscanner that verified her identity and species. The gymnasium beyond defied every expectation she had harbored about alien sports facilities. The space stretched upward for what looked like several stories, with multiple levels of activity areas suspended at various heights. Artificial gravity fields created pockets where students could practice three-dimensional movement, while others trained in reduced gravity environments that simulated their homeworld's conditions. Professor Kethvar noticed her entrance immediately. The Valdorian instructor stood nearly 8 feet tall, his blue-green skin shimmering with natural moisture that kept his amphibious physiology comfortable in the Academy's dry atmosphere. His large, black eyes fixed on Maya with the calculating gaze of someone who had spent decades evaluating young beings' physical capabilities. "Miss Chun," he called out in heavily accented galactic standard, "how thoughtful of you to join us. Please, take position with the others for our initial assessment." Maya's stomach dropped. Assessment? On her first day. She followed Professor Kethvar's gesture toward a group of about 30 students arranged in neat rows near the center of the gymnasium. As she approached, conversations died, and heads turned to stare at the newcomer. She recognized some of the species from her xenobiology classes. The Andalites with their 4 legs and blade-tipped tails maintained perfect formation, their centaur-like bodies radiating military precision. Several Quellian students hovered slightly above the ground, their gossamer wings barely visible as they beat thousands of times per second. A cluster of more than youth stood together, their rock-like skin giving them the appearance of living statues. Maya found an empty space and tried to stand at attention like the others, but she immediately felt clumsy and out of place. Everyone else seemed to know exactly what was expected, while she struggled to figure out even basic positioning. "Today we begin with cardiovascular baseline measurements," Professor Kethvar announced, his voice carrying easily through the vast space. "Each species has evolved different approaches to sustained physical activity. Understanding these differences helps us design appropriate training regimens for our diverse student body." He gestured to a series of tracks that materialized from the gymnasium floor, each one adjusting itself to accommodate different physiological needs. Some tracks had higher gravity settings, others lower. Some filled with water for aquatic species, while others generated specific atmospheric conditions. "The assessment is simple," Professor Kethvar continued. "Run at your sustainable pace for exactly 20 minutes. Do not attempt to impress me by exceeding your natural capabilities. This is about understanding your baseline, not setting records. Maya watched as students began separating toward tracks suited to their species. She noticed immediately that she was the only human in the class, possibly the only human in the entire academy. The realization hit her like a physical weight. "Miss Chun," Professor Kethvar called out. "Track 7 has been configured for human physiological standards. Gravity set to 9.8 meters per second squared. Atmospheric composition matched to your homeworld's sea level equivalent." She nodded and moved toward the indicated track. The surface felt strange under her feet. Not quite rubber, not quite metal, but something that provided perfect traction and cushioning. As she took her position at the starting line, she became acutely aware that every other student in the gymnasium was watching her. The starting tone chimed, a harmonic note that somehow conveyed "begin" to every species present. Maya started running. For the first few minutes, everything proceeded normally. Maya settled into a comfortable pace she could maintain indefinitely. The same rhythm she had used for morning runs through the forest near her family's home on Earth. Around her, other students moved according to their own physiological patterns. The Andalites galloped with mechanical precision. The Quellians fluttered along just above their track surface. The aquatic species powered through their water-filled lanes with undulating motions. Maya found herself lapping some of the slower students within the first 5 minutes. This surprised her, but she attributed it to nervous energy and forced herself to slow down. She did not want to burn out early and embarrass herself further. By the 10-minute mark, something strange was happening. Maya was lapping students consistently now, not just the slower ones. Her breathing remained steady and controlled, her heart rate elevated but comfortable. She felt like she was just warming up, hitting that perfect stride where running became as natural as walking. The Andalite students, renowned throughout the galaxy for their physical prowess, began to show signs of fatigue. Their perfect formation wavered as individuals struggled to maintain pace. The more than students, built for strength rather than endurance, had already reduced their speed significantly. Professor Kethvar's attention was now focused entirely on Track 7. His large eyes tracked Maya's movement with growing interest and something that might have been concern. He began consulting his data pad more frequently, checking readings that apparently conflicted with his expectations. Maya noticed the attention, but tried to ignore it. She had been running for 15 minutes now and felt fantastic. Her body was warm, loose, and responsive. If anything, she felt like she could run faster, but she remembered the professor's warning about not trying to impress anyone. Around her, the other students were clearly struggling. The Zentorian's graceful movements had become labored. Several Quellian students had landed on their tracks and were walking rather than flying. Even the proud Andalites were beginning to break formation as fatigue set in. Maya lapped the entire class for the third time. Professor Kethvar stared at his datapad, then at Maya, then back at his datapad. The readings could not be correct. According to his instruments, the human girl was showing no signs of cardiovascular distress. Her heart rate was elevated but stable. Her oxygen consumption was well within normal parameters. Most remarkably, her pace had not decreased at all since the beginning of the exercise. The 20-minute tone sounded. Maya slowed to a walk, breathing easily. She had covered just over 8 kilometers during the assessment, a distance that would have been a casual jog on Earth, but apparently represented something unprecedented here. Every other student in the gymnasium had stopped running at least 5 minutes earlier. Most were bent over, hands on their knees, breathing heavily. The Andalites maintained their dignity, but were clearly exhausted. The more than students had simply sat down where they stood, their rocky forms immobile as they recovered. Maya looked around, confused. Had she done something wrong? The professor was approaching her with an expression she could not read, his datapad clutched in both hands. "Miss Chun," Professor Kethvar said carefully, "how do you feel?" "Fine, sir." "Good, actually." "What?" Maya's confusion was genuine. She felt energized, ready for whatever came next. You completed 8.2 kilometers in 20 minutes while maintaining a steady pace throughout the entire duration. Your vital signs show no indication of significant stress. How is this possible? Maya blinked. I don't understand, sir. Is that bad? Professor Kethvar looked at his datapad again, as if hoping the numbers had changed. They had not. Miss Chun, the previous academy record for this assessment was 6.7 kilometers, set by an Andalite student whose species is renowned for physical excellence. You exceeded that record by nearly 25%, and you appear to have been holding back. The gymnasium had gone completely silent. Every student was staring at Maya, with expressions ranging from awe to disbelief. The Andalites looked particularly stunned. Their species took enormous pride in their physical capabilities, and they had just watched a small alien girl make their best efforts look pedestrian. I was holding back, Maya admitted quietly. You said not to try to impress anyone. The silence stretched longer. Professor Kethvar exchanged glances with several other faculty members who had materialized around the edges of the gymnasium, apparently drawn by whatever readings their monitoring systems were displaying. Miss Chun, the professor said slowly, what kind of physical training did you undergo on your homeworld? Maya shrugged. Normal stuff, I guess. I was on my school's cross-country team. I liked hiking on weekends. We lived near the mountains, so I did a lot of trail running. Trail running, Professor Kethvar repeated. In mountains, on a high-gravity world with an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere and extreme temperature variations. Yes, sir. Maya was beginning to feel like she had somehow done something terribly wrong. Professor Kethvar made a note on his datapad, then looked back at Maya. Miss Chun, I'm going to ask you to participate in some additional assessments. Not today. You need time to acclimate to the academy environment. But I believe we may need to develop a specialized curriculum for your particular capabilities. Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Around her, the other students were still staring. Some were whispering to each other in their native languages, and she caught fragments of translation through her universal communication device. Words like impossible and Deathworld and how is she still breathing floated past her ears. As the class broke up and students began moving toward the changing areas, Maya found herself walking alone. The easy camaraderie she had hoped to build with her new classmates felt impossibly distant now. She had wanted to fit in, to be normal, to make friends with beings from across the galaxy. Instead, she had apparently just terrified them. In the changing area, Maya sat on a bench and stared at her hands. They looked perfectly normal to her, just hands attached to a perfectly normal body that had done perfectly normal things. She had not tried to show off. She had not pushed herself. She had simply run at a comfortable pace for 20 minutes. The fact that this was apparently superhuman by galactic standards was a revelation that left her feeling more isolated than ever. She had traveled millions of light years from home to attend the most prestigious academy in the galaxy. And on her first day, she had somehow become a freak. Maya changed back into her regular uniform and checked her class schedule. Next was Introduction to Galactic History, followed by Elementary Xenobiology. Normal classes where she could sit quietly and try to blend in where her Earth-evolved physiology would not make her stand out like some kind of monster. As she gathered her belongings, Maya overheard a conversation between two Zentorian students near the entrance. Did you see the way she just kept going? Like it was nothing. My cousin attended the military academy on Zentori Prime. She said even their elite soldiers could not maintain that pace for 20 minutes. What kind of world creates beings like that? A death world. I looked up her species' homeworld in the database after class was announced. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Extreme gravity, violent weather, predators everywhere, toxic atmosphere for most species. Nothing should be able to evolve there, much less thrive. And she grew up there, running through mountains for fun. Maya left the changing area quickly, not wanting to hear any more. The corridors of Celestial Academy felt even more alien now, and she wondered if coming here had been a mistake. Perhaps humans were not ready for galactic society. Perhaps they were too different, too adapted to violence and hardship. She made her way to her next class, unaware that Professor Kethvar was already composing a priority message to the Academy's research division. The message would trigger the first comprehensive study of human physiology ever undertaken by galactic science, and its implications would reshape how every species in the known galaxy understood the concept of physical limits. Maya Chin had just run 8 kilometers in 20 minutes while holding back, and she thought it was normal. The galaxy was about to learn that normal, when applied to humans, was a terrifying concept indeed. 3 days had passed since Maya's first gymnasium assessment, and the whispers had only grown louder. She found herself the subject of curious stares in every corridor, hushed conversations that stopped abruptly when she approached, and a growing collection of research requests from various academic departments. Maya tried to focus on her regular coursework, but the constant attention made concentration nearly impossible. Dr. Elena Thax intercepted Maya outside her comparative government class, her 6 arms managing 3 different data pads simultaneously while her main hands gestured expressively. The hexapod professor was one of the Academy's leading xenobiology researchers, and her compound eyes studied Maya with scientific intensity. Miss Chun, I have reviewed the data from your physical assessment. The implications are quite remarkable. I would very much like to schedule some comprehensive testing sessions. Maya shifted her bag nervously. What kind of testing? Nothing invasive, I assure you. Cardiovascular analysis, metabolic efficiency studies, neural response mapping. Your species represents a fascinating adaptation to extreme environmental pressures. We have never had the opportunity to study a human subject in detail. I'm not really a subject, Dr. Thax. I'm just a student trying to get through my classes. Dr. Thax's antennae twitched in what Maya had learned was the hexapod equivalent of enthusiasm. But you represent the first comprehensive data point for human physiology in our databases. Your performance metrics suggest capabilities that challenge our fundamental understanding of biological limitations. Maya sighed. She had heard variations of this conversation a dozen times over the past few days. Everyone wanted to study her, test her, understand how she worked. Nobody seemed particularly interested in helping her understand xenobiology or galactic history. Dr. Thax, can I ask you something? In your database, what does it say about Earth? About humans? The professor consulted one of her datapads. Earth is classified as a Class 12 hostile environment world. Surface gravity approximately 10% above galactic average. Atmospheric composition toxic to 67% of known sapient species. Extreme temperature variations. Frequent seismic activity. Weather systems of unusual violence. Indigenous life forms demonstrating exceptional aggressiveness and adaptability. And humans. Data limited. Recent contact species. Technological development suggests intelligence comparable to galactic standard. Physical capabilities unknown until your enrollment provided our first data points. Dr. Thax looked up from her datapad. Miss Chun, do you understand what a Class 12 designation means? Maya shook her head. The classification scale runs from 1 to 15, with 1 representing environments optimal for galactic standard life forms. Most civilized worlds rate between 2 and 4. The Andalite homeworld, which produces some of our finest warriors, rates a 7. We have never established contact with any sapient species from a world rated above 10. What's a 15? Theoretical maximum hostile environment. A world so dangerous that evolution of complex life forms is considered impossible. Dr. Thax's compound eyes focused intently on Maya. Miss Chun, your homeworld rates only 3 points below theoretical maximum lethality. Yet not only did your species evolve there, you describe your physical activities as recreational. Maya thought about her weekend hikes, scrambling up rocky cliff faces and splashing through ice-cold mountain streams. She remembered her cross-country teams training runs through forests where bears and mountain lions still roamed. Normal activities. Fun activities. Dr. Thax, you keep talking about my capabilities like they're unusual. But I'm not even particularly athletic by human standards. I was maybe middle of the pack on my running team. There are humans who could run twice as far, twice as fast. The professor's antennae went completely still, a sign of profound shock in hexapod body language. You are suggesting that your performance represents average human capabilities? Below average, probably. I mean, I wasn't bad, but I wasn't great either. Dr. Thax made rapid notes across all three of her data pads simultaneously. Miss Chun, I must insist on those testing sessions. The implications of what you are describing could revolutionize our understanding of evolutionary biology. Maya was about to respond when a commotion erupted from the direction of the gymnasium complex. Shouts echoed through the corridors, not the normal sounds of academic activity, but something urgent and alarmed. Students began running toward the disturbance, and Maya found herself swept along by the crowd. The scene that greeted them in the main gymnasium was chaos. Professor Kethvar was shouting instructions to a medical team that had materialized around one of the exercise stations. Several Andalite students stood in a tight cluster, their usual military bearing replaced by obvious distress. Other students pressed against the barriers that faculty members were hastily establishing. Maya caught sight of what had caused the emergency. One of the strength training stations, a device designed to provide resistance exercise across multiple galactic physiology types, was completely destroyed. Twisted metal and shattered crystal components littered the floor around it. Fluid leaked from ruptured hydraulic lines, creating rainbow puddles on the gymnasium surface. What happened? Maya asked a nearby Zentorian student. Jektar was using the resistance trainer, the Zentorian whispered, his voice trembling with either awe or fear. The new human student joined him for what she called a light workout. Something went wrong with the machine. Maya pushed closer to the wreckage. She could see now that the machine had not simply malfunctioned. It had been pushed beyond its design limits. Force gauges showed readings that exceeded their maximum values. Structural components had failed under loads they were never intended to handle. Professor Kethvar noticed Maya approaching, and his expression shifted from professional concern to something approaching dread. Miss Chun, were you involved in this incident? No, sir. I just got here. But someone mentioned another human student. Jackson Williams, a transfer student who arrived this morning. He volunteered to assist with a demonstration of the resistance training equipment. Professor Kethvar gestured toward the wreckage. The machine was calibrated for Andalite physiology, among the strongest species in our student body. Mr. Williams appeared to be experiencing no difficulty with the maximum settings, so Jektar suggested increasing the resistance. And then the machine broke? The machine exceeded its design tolerances by approximately 400% before experiencing catastrophic failure. Mr. Williams expressed concern that the equipment was not providing adequate resistance for what he described as a basic warm-up routine. Maya stared at the twisted metal. She had used similar equipment at her high school gym on Earth. Good equipment built to handle teenage athletes who took their strength training seriously. But nothing like this sophisticated alien technology that was supposed to accommodate the strongest species in known space. Where is Jackson now? Medical Bay, undergoing precautionary examination. The medical staff wanted to ensure he had not been injured by the equipment failure. Professor Kethvar Pulse. Miss Chun, Mr. Williams mentioned that you attended the same preparatory institution on Earth. He seemed to believe his performance was unremarkable by human standards. Maya nodded slowly. Jackson was on the football team and did competitive powerlifting. He was pretty strong, but not like record-setting strong or anything. The silence that followed her statement stretched uncomfortably long. Professor Kethvar exchanged glances with Dr. Thax, who had arrived during the commotion. Other faculty members were gathering now, their expressions showing various degrees of concern, fascination, and what might have been fear. Miss Chun, Dr. Thax said carefully, when you describe Mr. Williams as pretty strong but not record-setting, what kind of records are you referencing? Human records. Earth records. I mean, he could bench press maybe 250, 270 pounds. Squat maybe 350. Good numbers for a high school athlete, but nothing that would get him noticed by college scouts. Maya noticed that Dr. Thax was performing rapid calculations on her datapad. The professor's antennae began twitching again. Miss Chun, could you please convert those measurements to standard galactic units? Maya consulted her personal translator. About 113 to 122 kilograms for bench press, roughly 159 kilograms for squats. Dr. Thax's compound eyes went completely black, an involuntary response to shock that Maya had learned about in xenobiology class. Miss Chun, the galactic record for the bench press equivalent, held by an Andalite warrior athlete, is 97 kilograms. You are describing those numbers as unremarkable for a human adolescent. Maya felt that familiar sinking sensation in her stomach. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Jackson would probably be embarrassed to know people thought he was strong. There were guys on the football team who could outlift him pretty easily. Professor Kethvar was making notes furiously. Miss Chun, how many students were on this football team? Maybe 60 or 70. Jackson was probably in the top 15 or 20 for strength. So roughly 15 to 20 students at your preparatory institution could exceed the galactic strength record. Maya considered this. Well, probably more than that. Jackson wasn't on the powerlifting team. Those guys were really strong. And there were girls who were pretty competitive too, though they usually focused on different lifts. The gathering of faculty members had grown to include representatives from nearly every academic department. Maya could see them passing datapads back and forth, consulting databases, and engaging in heated, whispered conversations. The word Deathworld kept surfacing in the fragments she could understand. Dr. Thax approached Maya again, her movements more cautious than before. Miss Chun, I realize this may seem intrusive, but I need to ask about your planet's classification as a hostile environment. When you're growing up there, did you consider it dangerous? Maya thought about the question seriously. I guess there were dangerous things. We had to be careful about wildlife when we were hiking. Weather could be unpredictable. You learn to respect the mountains, the ocean, things like that. Could you provide some specific examples? Well, we had black bears in our area. Mountain lions, though you didn't see them very often. Rattlesnakes, the usual stuff. Maya noticed the increasingly horrified expressions around her. But mostly they left you alone if you didn't bother them. The biggest risks were probably things like rock slides, flash floods, hypothermia if you got caught in bad weather without proper gear. Miss Chun, Professor Kethvar interrupted gently. Could you describe the physical characteristics of these black bears you mentioned so casually? Maya, try to remember her nature education classes. Adult males may be 300 pounds, sometimes bigger. Strong enough to flip over cars if they wanted to get food inside. Fast, they can run like 35 miles per hour. Good climbers, good swimmers. She noticed that several faculty members were frantically consulting their databases, cross-referencing with galactic fauna classifications. And mountain lions? Smaller, maybe 150 pounds, but really fast and agile. Built for hunting. We learned to make noise when we were hiking, so we wouldn't surprise one. Dr. Thax looked up from her datapad, her voice carefully controlled. Miss Chun, the creature you describe as a black bear will be classified as a Class 9 apex predator. The mountain lion rates Class 8. You describe sharing recreational space with multiple apex predator species as a normal part of childhood. Maya was beginning to understand why everyone seemed so disturbed. We were careful. We learned what to do. It wasn't like they were hunting us. But they were capable of hunting you? Sure, if they wanted to, but mostly they didn't want to. Humans aren't really natural prey for most large predators. We're too big, too aggressive, too unpredictable. Most animals prefer easier targets. The faculty members exchanged more looks. Maya caught fragments of conversation about aggressive omnivore adaptations and apex predator coexistence strategies and environmental pressure selection. Professor Kethvar cleared his throat. Miss Chun, Dr. Thax, I believe we need to convene an emergency consultation with the Xenobiology Council. The implications of human physiology for Academy safety protocols require immediate review. Safety protocols? Maya asked. Miss Chun, Dr. Thax explained patiently. We need to understand the full range of human capabilities before we can safely integrate your species into standard academic activities. If Mr. Williams can accidentally destroy equipment designed for our strongest species, and if he can outperform our finest athletes while holding back, we need to establish appropriate guidelines. Maya thought about Jackson accidentally breaking alien exercise equipment and felt a flush of embarrassment. Dr. Thax, are you saying we're too dangerous to be here? Not dangerous, Miss Chun. Unprecedented. Your species represents a completely unknown variable in terms of physical capabilities. We need data to ensure everyone's safety, including your own. As the crowd began to disperse and faculty members hurried off to their emergency meetings, Maya found herself standing alone next to the wreckage of the resistance trainer. The twisted metal seemed to mock her hopes of fitting in at the academy. She had wanted to be normal. She had wanted to make friends, learn about galactic civilization, maybe pursue a career in interstellar diplomacy. Instead, she was apparently part of a species so physically capable that their presence required emergency safety protocols. Maya made her way to the medical bay to check on Jackson. She found him sitting on an examination table, looking bored while a Theshan medical technician ran various scanners over his arms and torso. He brightened when he saw her. Maya, thank God, another human. These people are acting like I'm some kind of monster because their gym equipment broke. Jackson, did you really destroy that machine by accident? He shrugged. It was set too light. I kept asking them to turn up the resistance, but the thing maxed out at what felt like maybe 40% of my normal workout weight. I was barely warming up when something went crack, and pieces started falling off. Maya looked at the Theshan technician, whose crystalline form was resonating with harmonic frequencies that indicated deep concern. What are the medical results? She asked. The technician's song shifted to what Maya's translator rendered as, subject shows no indication of physical stress or injury. Muscle density, approximately 3 times galactic average. Bone density, significantly elevated. Cardiovascular efficiency, unprecedented. Neural response times, extremely rapid. All readings consistent with adaptation to extreme environmental conditions. Jackson grinned. They keep asking me questions about Earth, like it's some kind of hell dimension. I try to explain that it's actually pretty nice if you know what you're doing, but I don't think they believe me. Maya thought about the faculty emergency meeting that was probably happening right now. She thought about the destroyed exercise equipment, the broken records, the fear in alien eyes when they realized what humans were capable of. Jackson, she said slowly, I think we might have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind where everyone is scared of us, and we don't even understand why. Jackson considered this. You know what? That's their problem, not ours. We didn't ask to be evolution's overachievers. We just grew up where we grew up, did what we had to do to survive and thrive. Maya nodded, but she could not shake the feeling that surviving and thriving on a death world had prepared them for challenges they did not even realize existed yet. The question was whether the galaxy was prepared for them. The emergency faculty meeting had been in session for 6 hours, and Maya could hear the heated debates through the soundproof walls of the conference chamber. Raised voices in a dozen different languages created a cacophony that even the Academy's universal translator struggled to parse. She sat in the waiting area outside, reviewing her xenobiology homework, and tried to pretend that the future of human-galactic relations was not being decided in the room next door. Jackson had been called into the meeting 3 hours earlier. Through the transparent aluminum panels, Maya could see him sitting at the center of a horseshoe-shaped table, surrounded by the Academy's most senior faculty members and several officials who had arrived from the Galactic Education Consortium's headquarters. He looked remarkably calm for someone who had accidentally destroyed military-grade exercise equipment and triggered a diplomatic crisis. Dr. Thax emerged from the conference room, her 6 arms moving in the agitated patterns that indicated severe stress. She spotted Maya immediately and approached with the careful movements of someone delivering bad news. Miss Chun, the consortium has made some preliminary decisions regarding human students at the Academy. Maya closed her textbook and looked up. Are we being expelled? Not exactly, but significant restrictions will be implemented until comprehensive safety protocols can be established. Dr. Thax consulted one of her ever-present datapads. Human students will be prohibited from participating in standard physical education classes. All equipment use must be supervised by qualified technicians. Participation in competitive athletics is suspended indefinitely, so we're being treated like dangerous animals. Dr. Thax's antennae drooped apologetically. Miss Chun, please understand the position we are in. Mr. Williams accidentally destroyed equipment designed to handle forces equivalent to a small spacecraft engine. Your cardiovascular performance exceeds our measuring capabilities. We simply do not know the safe limits for human physical activity. Maya stood up and began pacing. The waiting area felt claustrophobic, like a cage designed to contain something the designers did not understand. Dr. Thax, we're not trying to break your equipment or set impossible records. We're just trying to get some exercise. That is precisely the problem. What you consider getting some exercise appears to exceed the capabilities of our most elite athletes. Through the conference room windows, Maya could see Jackson demonstrating something to the assembled faculty. He appeared to be doing push-ups, though the viewing angle made it difficult to be certain. Whatever he was showing them was causing considerable agitation among the observers. Dr. Thax, can I ask you something? How many species are represented in the Galactic Education Consortium? 437 as of this academic year. And how many of those species come from worlds that you consider dangerous? Dr. Thax consulted her datapad. 17 species originate from worlds classified as Category 6 or higher hostile environments. The highest previous classification was Category 9. What makes a world get classified as Category 12? Multiple environmental hazards that individually would rate as moderate to severe threats, combined with overall conditions that make survival extremely challenging even with advanced technology. Dr. Thax looked at Maya with something approaching sympathy. Miss Chun, most Category 12 worlds are considered unsuitable for colonization, even with full terraforming support. The fact that native sapient life evolved on such a world is unprecedented. Maya thought about this. Dr. Thax, what if the problem is not that humans are too dangerous, but that everyone else is too fragile? The hexapod professor's compound eyes focused sharply on Maya. Could you elaborate on that theory? Well, you keep talking about Earth like it's this impossible hell world, but millions of species evolved there. Not just humans. Everything from bacteria to blue whales to giant sequoia trees. Life found a way to thrive in conditions you think are unsurvivable. Your point being, maybe the rest of the galaxy has had it too easy. Maybe evolving on comfortable, safe worlds made everyone else soft. Dr. Thax was quiet for a long moment, her antennae twitching in a rhythm that indicated deep consideration. Miss Chun, that is a disturbing hypothesis. Why disturbing? Because it implies that humans represent not an aberration, but a preview of what galactic species could become under sufficient evolutionary pressure. The conference room doors opened, and Jackson emerged, followed by a stream of faculty members who looked like they had been through a traumatic experience. Professor Kethvar was among the last to exit, his blue-green skin several shades paler than usual. Jackson approached Maya with a rueful grin. Well, that was interesting. What do they want you to demonstrate? Basic fitness stuff. Push-ups, sit-ups, some bodyweight exercises. I think I broke their minds when I did 100 push-ups without getting tired. Maya stared at him. 100? Jackson, you were showing off. I was not. They kept asking if I was getting tired, so I kept going until they told me to stop. How was I supposed to know that 20 push-ups is considered peak athletic performance for most species? Professor Kethvar joined their conversation, his expression carefully neutral. Miss Chun, Mr. Williams, the consortium has reached some interim decisions about human students at the academy. Dr. Thax mentioned restrictions. Yes, but also some opportunities. The consortium's research division has approved a comprehensive study of human physiology and capabilities. You would both be compensated for your participation, and the data would help establish appropriate integration protocols for future human students. Maya and Jackson exchanged glances. What kind of study? Maya asked. Nothing harmful or invasive. Primarily observational analysis of your normal daily activities, combined with controlled assessments of your physical capabilities. The goal is to establish baseline parameters for human performance across multiple categories. Jackson leaned against the wall. Translation: they want to figure out exactly how dangerous we are. Mr. Williams, with respect, you destroyed a piece of equipment designed to provide adequate resistance training for an Andalite warrior. The Andalites are our prototypical warrior species. Their entire culture revolves around physical excellence and military prowess. From their perspective, you casually overpowered their strongest members while warming up. Maya thought about the Andalite students she had seen around campus. Tall, graceful, clearly powerful beings who carried themselves with the confidence of natural athletes. The idea that Jackson had accidentally outperformed their elite seemed absurd. Professor Kethvar, what exactly are the Andalites capable of? An elite Andalite warrior can run approximately 45 kilometers per hour for short distances. They can leap horizontally up to 8 meters. Their combat reflexes are legendary. Reaction times measured in fractions of seconds. They regularly carry equipment loads exceeding their own body weight over rough terrain. Jackson whistled appreciatively. Okay, that is legitimately impressive. I cannot do most of that. Mr. Williams, according to our preliminary assessments, your baseline strength exceeds their maximum capabilities by a considerable margin. Ms. Chin's endurance performance suggests similar superiority in cardiovascular fitness. Maya felt that familiar knot forming in her stomach. So we really are too dangerous to be here. Not dangerous, Miss Chun. Simply unprecedented. The research study would help us understand not just what you can do, but how we can adapt our educational environment to accommodate human capabilities. Dr. Thax rejoined the group, carrying a collection of authorization documents. Miss Chun, Mr. Williams, there is another consideration. The Galactic Education Consortium believes that understanding human capabilities is crucial for future diplomatic relations between Earth and galactic civilization. Meaning what? Jackson asked. Meaning that your species represents the first sapient contact from a high-category hostile environment world. If Earth produces beings with your capabilities as standard, the implications for galactic defense, exploration, and development are significant. Maya understood immediately. You're worried that humans might be too powerful for galactic society to handle safely. Or, Dr. Thax added carefully, we're hoping that humans might be exactly what galactic society needs. Needs for what? Miss Chun, the galaxy is a vast place. Most civilized species have evolved on worlds that are, by universal standards, quite benign. Our exploration and colonization efforts have been limited to environments that are compatible with our physiology. There are countless worlds that remain unexplored because they are too hostile for our people to survive there safely. Jackson grinned, but not too hostile for humans. Precisely. Your species might represent the key to expanding galactic civilization into environments we have previously considered inaccessible. Maya looked around the academy corridors, seeing them with new perspective. These graceful, flowing spaces designed for delicate beings who had never faced true physical challenges. Beautiful and sophisticated, but also sheltered and limited. Dr. Thax, what about the social aspect? The other students are afraid of us. Fear often transforms into respect once understanding is achieved. The research study would help other students learn that human capabilities, while exceptional, do not represent a threat to their safety. Professor Kethvar added, additionally, Ms. Chun, your academic performance in non-physical subjects has been exemplary. Several faculty members have noted your insights in xenobiology and comparative government. You clearly possess intellectual capabilities that complement your physical gifts. Maya realized that she was at a crossroads. She could accept the restrictions, submit to being treated as a fascinating but dangerous specimen, and hoped that eventually the galaxy would figure out how to accommodate her species. Or she could embrace what she was, a product of a world that had forged its children in fires that most galactic species could not even imagine surviving. What would this research study involve exactly? Dr. Thax consulted her documents. Phase 1 would establish baseline capabilities across multiple categories: cardiovascular endurance, strength, agility, reaction time, environmental tolerance, cognitive performance under stress. Phase 2 would involve controlled challenges designed to identify upper limits safely. And Phase 3, integration protocols, working with other students and faculty to develop educational approaches that allow humans to participate fully in academy life while maintaining safety for all species. Jackson was nodding slowly. Maya, this could be good for everyone. They get to understand what humans can do, we get to prove that we're not monsters, and future human students get a better experience. Maya considered the offer. Becoming a test subject was not why she had come to the academy, but perhaps it was what the situation required. If her participation could smooth the way for other humans to join galactic civilization as equals rather than curiosities, the sacrifice might be worthwhile. What about our regular coursework? Maintained in full. The research activities would be scheduled around your academic obligations. Professor Kethvar has volunteered to serve as your faculty advisor throughout the process. Maya looked at Jackson, who shrugged. I'm in if you are. Besides, it might be fun to see exactly what we can do when we're not trying to hold back. Miss Chun, Dr. Thax added, there is one more consideration. The research data would be shared with Earth authorities to help them prepare for increased contact with galactic civilization. Your participation would directly benefit your homeworld's integration into the galactic community. Maya thought about Earth, about the billions of humans who had no idea that they were considered impossibly powerful by galactic standards. She thought about the potential for misunderstanding, fear, and conflict if first contact went badly, because nobody understood what humans were capable of. All right, she said finally, we'll do it, but I want some conditions. Professor Kethvar gestured for her to continue. First, complete transparency. We see all the data, understand all the results, participate in writing the final reports. Second, the research has to benefit all students, not just humans. If you learn things that could improve physical education or safety protocols for everyone, you implement those changes. Third, we get to help design the integration protocols for future human students. Dr. Thax's antennae were practically vibrating with excitement. Miss Chun, those terms are entirely acceptable. When would you like to begin? Maya looked at Jackson, who nodded enthusiastically. Tomorrow morning. But tonight, we're going to do normal student things. Study groups, social activities, the cafeteria. If we're going to be specimens, we might as well enjoy being students for one more evening. As they walked toward the residential areas, Maya reflected on how quickly her academy experience had evolved. 3 days earlier, she had been an anonymous transfer student hoping to blend in. Now she was about to become the subject of the most comprehensive xenobiology study in galactic history. The irony was not lost on her. She had come to the academy to learn about alien civilizations. Instead, she was about to teach them about humanity. And, based on the faculty reactions to Jackson's warm-up routine, that education was going to be far more intensive than anyone had anticipated. The research facility that had been hastily constructed for the Human Capability Study occupied an entire wing of the Academy Science Complex. Maya stood before its imposing entrance, flanked by Jackson and a small army of researchers representing dozens of galactic species. 3 weeks of testing had already produced results that were reshaping scientific understanding of biological limits, and today's session promised to push those boundaries even further. Dr. Thax emerged from the facility's main laboratory, her 6 arms coordinating multiple data pads while her compound eyes tracked the movements of technicians setting up recording equipment. The past weeks had transformed her from a curious xenobiology professor into the galaxy's leading authority on human physiology, though the position clearly came with considerable stress. Miss Chun, Mr. Williams, Today we attempt to establish upper limit baselines for human cardiovascular performance. Previous sessions have indicated that our testing equipment may be insufficient for this purpose. Maya reviewed the results from their earlier sessions, displayed on her personal datapad. The numbers still seemed surreal, even though she had generated them herself. Maximum sprint speed, 47 kilometers per hour, sustained for nearly 200 meters. Vertical leap, 1.8 meters. Horizontal leap, 4.6 meters. Reaction time, average of 0.15 seconds. All of these achievements while the researchers repeatedly asked if she was experiencing fatigue or stress. The answer had consistently been no. Jackson's strength assessments had required 3 equipment upgrades when successive testing devices proved inadequate for measuring his capabilities. His current bench press record stood at 193 kilograms, a number that had caused 2 Andalite observers to request medical attention for shock-induced fainting. "Dr. Thax," Maya said as they entered the main testing chamber, "I want to understand something. These numbers we've been generating, they seem to surprise you every time. But they don't feel exceptional from our perspective." Dr. Thax paused her equipment preparations. "Miss Chun, you have exceeded the previous galactic records in every single category we have tested. Mr. Williams has demonstrated strength levels that approach the theoretical limits our engineers believe possible for biological organisms. Yet both of you consistently report that your performance feels routine." "Because it is routine," Jackson interjected. "Maya, remember senior year cross-country? You ran a sub-18-minute 5K at regionals, and you were disappointed because you thought you could have gone faster." Maya nodded. "I had a cold that week. I knew I wasn't at my best." The cluster of researchers surrounding them erupted in agitated conversation. Maya caught fragments of translation. Sub-18 minutes, 5 kilometers, while ill, and what sounded like mathematical calculations being performed in real time. Professor Kethvar approached from across the chamber, his expression showing the now familiar combination of scientific fascination and existential dread that had become common among faculty members. "Miss Chun, could you clarify those numbers? A 5-kilometer run in under 18 minutes. Maya consulted her memory. 17 minutes, 43 seconds, if I remember correctly. It was a good time, but not great. I think the course record was somewhere around 1650. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the background hum of equipment seemed to fade as every researcher in the chamber focused entirely on Maya's casual statement. Dr. Thax was performing rapid calculations on her primary datapad, her antennae vibrating with increasing frequency. "Miss Chun, that represents an average pace of approximately 16.9 kilometers per hour, sustained over 5 kilometers, while you were suffering from illness. That sounds about right. Miss Chun, the current galactic record for 5-kilometer endurance running is 23 minutes, 12 seconds. You casually mentioned exceeding that record by more than 5 minutes while performing below your own standards." Maya felt that familiar sinking sensation. "Dr. Thax, I finished 7th in that race. 6 other girls ran faster than I did." The researchers began talking over each other in a babble of languages. Maya's translator struggled to keep pace with the overlapping conversations, but she caught references to evolutionary impossibility, theoretical limits, and military implications. Jackson seemed less concerned about the implications of their performance data. "Maya, remember what Coach Peterson used to say? The human body is capable of incredible things if you train it properly, and don't accept artificial limitations." "Mr. Williams," Professor Kethvar interrupted, "could you describe this training regimen that produced such capabilities?" Jackson shrugged. "Pretty standard stuff. Running every day, maybe 6 to 8 miles. Strength training 3 times a week. Plyometric exercises. Some interval work for speed development. Nothing fancy. 6 to 8 miles daily. That was just base conditioning. During peak training periods, we might hit 10 or 12 miles a day, plus track workouts." Maya watched Dr. Thax's compound eyes go completely black again. The xenobiology professor was making frantic notes across multiple datapads, occasionally pausing to perform calculations that seemed to be producing increasingly alarming results. Dr. Facts, Maya said gently. You look like you're having some kind of crisis. Are we that much of a problem? Miss Chun, you're not a problem. You are a revolution. Dr. Thax looked up from her calculations. Your casual descriptions of routine human athletic training exceed the most intensive conditioning programs developed by our military forces. What you consider basic fitness would represent elite-level performance for our strongest species. The main testing chamber had been configured for today's cardiovascular assessment. A track stretched around the perimeter of the space, with monitoring stations positioned at regular intervals. Unlike the standard 20-minute assessment that had started this entire investigation, today's protocol called for Maya to run until she experienced genuine fatigue. Miss Chun, Dr. Thax explained, we have prepared a graduated assessment protocol. Begin at a comfortable pace and maintain that speed for as long as possible. Our monitoring systems will track your vital signs continuously. When you begin to experience fatigue, signal us, and we will measure your recovery time. Maya nodded and took her position at the starting line. The assembled researchers positioned themselves at observation stations, their equipment arrays humming with activity. She noticed that several additional medical technicians were standing by. Apparently, her previous performances had suggested the need for enhanced safety protocols. The starting tones sounded, and Maya began running. For the first 30 minutes, the session proceeded normally. Maya settled into her comfortable distance pace, breathing easily and enjoying the opportunity to stretch her legs properly. The alien track surface felt strange, but adequate, and the climate-controlled environment made running effortless compared to Earth's variable conditions. Around the 45-minute mark, Maya realized that the researchers were becoming agitated. She could see them consulting their instruments, exchanging concerned looks, and making increasingly frantic notes. Her pace had not changed, her breathing remained steady, and she felt like she was just warming up. At the 1-hour mark, Professor Kethvar activated the communication system that allowed him to speak with Maya without interrupting her run. Miss Chun, how are you feeling? Good, Professor. Really good, actually. This is nice. I haven't had a chance for a proper long run since I got to the academy. Miss Chun, you have maintained a pace of 18 kilometers per hour for 60 minutes without any indication of fatigue. Are you certain you are not experiencing any stress? Maya considered this. 18 kilometers per hour for an hour was a decent training pace, but nothing extraordinary. She had done similar runs hundreds of times during cross-country season. I'm fine, Professor. This is actually a pretty relaxed pace for me. Do you want to speed up? The communication system went silent. Maya could see Professor Kethvar consulting urgently with Dr. Thax and other researchers. Their body language suggested alarm, though she could not understand why. At the 90-minute mark, Maya had covered 27 kilometers and was beginning to feel genuinely warmed up. Her stride felt smooth and efficient, her breathing was deep and controlled, and her muscles were loose and responsive. This was the point in a long run where everything started to feel effortless, what runners called the forever pace. Dr. Thax activated the communication system. Miss Chun, our equipment is indicating that you have run nearly a marathon distance while maintaining constant pace. Your vital signs show no indication of stress. This should not be possible. Dr. Thax, a marathon is 42 kilometers. I'm not even 2/3 of the way there yet. Miss Chun, the current galactic marathon record is 4 hours and 17 minutes. You are on pace to complete that distance in approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes. Maya did some quick calculations. That would be a decent time for a human marathon, though not exceptional. She knew several recreational runners back on Earth who could manage similar paces. That sounds about right for a comfortable long run pace, she replied. At the 2-hour mark, Maya was approaching 36 kilometers and still feeling strong. She had occasionally done training runs of this length during her highest mileage weeks, though usually not at quite this pace. The consistent surface and Perfect environmental conditions were making the effort feel easier than equivalent runs on Earth. She noticed that the observation area was now crowded with faculty members and officials who had not been present at the start of the session. Word of her performance was apparently spreading throughout the academy. Miss Chun, Professor Kethvar's voice came through the communication system. We need to discuss stopping the assessment. You are approaching distances that our safety protocols did not anticipate. Maya slowed to a stop, though she felt like she could have continued comfortably for at least another hour. Her breathing returned to normal within minutes, and she felt energized rather than fatigued. How did I do? She asked as she approached the research team. Dr. Thax was staring at her primary datapad with an expression of complete bewilderment. Miss Chun, you covered 36 kilometers in 2 hours while maintaining constant pace. Your heart rate never exceeded 160 beats per minute. Your oxygen consumption remained stable throughout the entire session. You show no indicators of significant physical stress. Is that good or bad? Miss Chun, you have just demolished every endurance record in our database by margins that suggest our previous understanding of biological limits was fundamentally flawed. Jackson, who had been observing from the side areas, jogged over to join the conversation. Maya, that's a pretty solid long run. Remember when we used to do those weekend 20-milers during summer training? Those were different, Maya protested. Those were on trails with hills and variable weather. This was basically perfect conditions. Mr. Williams, Dr. Thax said weakly, are you suggesting that Miss Chin's performance today represents normal training for human endurance athletes? Well, maybe a little faster than normal. But yeah, long, steady distance runs are pretty standard for anyone doing serious endurance training. Maya noticed that several researchers had sat down heavily, as if their legs could no longer support them. Others were engaged in heated conversations that seemed to center around the reliability of their measurement equipment. Dr. Thax, I get the feeling that our physical capabilities are causing some kind of crisis. Should Jackson and I be worried about this? Dr. Thax looked at Maya with an expression that might have been fear, awe, or both. Miss Chun, your species represents a fundamental challenge to our understanding of biological possibilities. We are beginning to realize that human capabilities may exceed our ability to measure them safely. Meaning what? Meaning that we may need to completely redesign our approach to studying human physiology. Our equipment, our protocols, our theoretical frameworks, everything we thought we knew about the limits of organic life may need to be reconsidered. Professor Kethvar joined the conversation, his expression grim. Miss Chun, Mr. Williams, I need to share some information that may disturb you. The Galactic Defense Council has been monitoring the results of these studies. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the climate control. Why would the military be interested in our exercise tests? Because, Miss Chun, your capabilities suggest that humans represent the most physically capable sapient species ever encountered by galactic civilization. The implications for military applications, exploration, colonization, and interspecies relations are staggering. Jackson's expression hardened. Professor, are you saying they want to weaponize us? I am saying that they want to understand what humanity represents before making any decisions about Earth's integration into galactic society. Your performance data suggests that humans could fundamentally alter the balance of power in this galaxy. Maya thought about the faculty meetings, the safety protocols, the constant stream of researchers wanting to study every aspect of human physiology. She was beginning to understand that this was about much more than academic curiosity or athletic records. Dr. Thax, when Earth authorities learn about these results, how do you think they'll react? Dr. Thax's antennae drooped in a gesture Maya had learned indicated deep concern. Miss Chun, I believe we are about to discover whether humanity is ready for the responsibility of being the galaxy's apex species. Maya looked around the testing facility, with its sophisticated equipment and careful protocols, all designed to measure capabilities that supposedly represented the limits of organic life. She thought about Earth with its mountains and oceans and storms, the world that had forged humanity in fires that most galactic species could not even imagine surviving. Dr. Thax, she said quietly. "I don't think you understand what humanity is yet, but I think you're about to find out." 6 months after Maya's first gym class, Celestial Academy had been transformed. What began as a simple physical education assessment had evolved into the most significant xenobiological discovery in galactic history, and its implications were rippling across hundreds of worlds. Maya stood before the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Education Consortium, a vast amphitheater filled with representatives from every member species. The weight of their attention was almost physical. 437 different species, all focused on the human girl who had accidentally revolutionized their understanding of biological possibility. The assembly hall itself was a marvel of engineering, designed to accommodate the diverse environmental needs of galactic civilization. Atmospheric pockets maintained perfect conditions for aquatic species, while gravity fields adjusted seamlessly to support beings evolved under different planetary conditions. It was a testament to galactic ingenuity and cooperation, and none of it had prepared them for humanity. Dr. Thax approached the central podium, her 6 arms managing presentation materials while her compound eyes tracked the assembled dignitaries. The months of research had elevated her to the position of chief xenobiologist for human studies, though the role clearly came with pressures she had never anticipated. Honored delegates, Dr. Thax began, her voice amplified by translation systems that rendered her words into hundreds of different languages and communication methods. 6 months ago, we believed we understood the fundamental limits of organic evolution. Today, we present findings that challenge every assumption about biological capability. The presentation screens activated, displaying data that had been carefully reviewed and verified by research teams across the galaxy. Maya recognized the graphs and measurements from her countless testing sessions, numbers that had consistently defied prediction and broken equipment designed for species-agnostic measurement. The human subjects designated Maya, Chun, and Jackson Williams have demonstrated capabilities that exceed previous galactic records in every measurable category. Dr. Thax continued. Cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, neural response time, environmental tolerance, recovery speed, and adaptation rate all register at levels we previously considered impossible for biological organisms. Delegate Vashtar of the Andalite Confederation rose from his position in the warrior species section. His 4 legs moved with mechanical precision, and his blade tail twitched with barely controlled emotion. Maya had learned to recognize the signs of Andalite distress, and this delegate was clearly struggling with the implications of the research data. Dr. Thax, Vashtar's voice carried the formal cadence of military training. The Andalite people have built our entire civilization around the pursuit of physical excellence. Our warriors train from childhood to achieve capabilities that these humans describe as recreational activity. How do we reconcile this reality with our cultural identity? The question hung in the vast space of the assembly hall. Maya could see similar concerns reflected in the body language of delegates from other physically oriented species. The more than representatives sat motionless as stone, their rock-like features impossible to read. The Quellian delegation's wings had stopped their constant motion, a sign of profound shock in their species. Dr. Thax consulted her presentation materials. Delegate Vashtar, our research suggests that human capabilities result from evolutionary pressures that exceed anything experienced by previously contacted species. Earth represents an environment so hostile that survival required adaptations we are only beginning to understand. Maya felt the familiar weight of being analyzed and discussed rather than simply consulted. She had agreed to this public presentation because Earth's integration into galactic society depended on transparency about human capabilities, but the experience of being treated as a specimen never became comfortable. Professor Kethvar activated his speaking privileges from the faculty section. Honored delegates, I believe we must address the fundamental question underlying this assembly. Are humans compatible with galactic civilization as it currently exists, or does their presence require fundamental changes to our social structures? The question sparked immediate debate across the assembly hall. Maya could hear fragments of argument in dozens of languages, her universal translator struggling to keep pace with the overlapping conversations. Terms like species supremacy, evolutionary advantage, and power imbalance surfaced repeatedly. Jackson, seated beside Maya in the witness section, leaned over to whisper, "They're talking about us like we're some kind of invasion force." Maya nodded grimly. The past months had shown her how fear could masquerade as scientific curiosity. While some researchers genuinely wanted to understand human physiology, others seemed more concerned about what humanity might represent as a potential threat. Delegate Serendai of the Theshan Crystal Collective activated her harmonic communication system, her crystalline form resonating with frequencies that the translators rendered as formal inquiry. "Dr. Thax, your research focused on two individual humans. How representative are these subjects of their species as a whole?" Dr. Thax's antennae drooped slightly. A gesture Maya had learned indicated her discomfort with this particular topic. "Delegate Serendai. According to the subjects themselves, their capabilities represent average to below average performance by human standards." The assembly hall erupted. Delegates from across the galaxy began speaking simultaneously, their voices creating a chaos of languages and emotional responses. Maya caught fragments of translation that suggested everything from disbelief to terror to demands for immediate action. The presiding moderator, ancient Zelnoxi, whose tree-like form commanded respect across species lines, activated the harmony protocols that restored order to the assembly. His deep, rumbling voice carried the authority of centuries. The chair recognizes human representative Maya-chan for direct testimony. Maya stood slowly, aware that her next words might determine humanity's place in galactic civilization. She had prepared extensively for this moment, but no amount of preparation could fully ready someone for speaking on behalf of their entire species. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "I understand your concerns about human capabilities. 6 months ago, I shared them. When I first arrived at Celestial Academy, I wanted nothing more than to fit in, to be normal, to make friends with beings from across the galaxy." She paused, looking across the vast assembly hall at representatives of hundreds of civilizations, each one grappling with the implications of humanity's evolutionary heritage. "What I've learned is that normal is relative. On Earth, what you call my exceptional capabilities are just what it takes to survive and thrive. We didn't choose to evolve on a world that tried to kill us every day. We didn't choose to develop strength and endurance that exceed galactic norms. We are what our environment made us." Delegate Vashtar activated his speaking privileges again. "Miss Chun, what assurances can humanity provide that your capabilities will not be used to dominate other species?" Maya had expected this question, but it still stung. "Delegate Vashtar, I could ask the same question about any species' unique capabilities. The Andalites possess warrior traditions and military excellence. The Thessians have crystalline bodies that are essentially living technology. Every species brings strengths that could theoretically be used to dominate others." She gestured toward the diverse assembly. "But you've built a civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. Why do you assume humans will be different?" "Because," Vashtar replied bluntly, "your capabilities exceed ours by margins that suggest competitive disadvantage for every other species." Jackson stood beside Maya, his movement drawing immediate attention from the assembly. "Delegates, may I share something about human history?" The Zelnoxi moderator granted permission. "On Earth, humans aren't the strongest species. We're not the fastest or the most agile or the best adapted to any particular environment. We survived and thrived because we learned to cooperate, to use tools to solve problems together." Jackson's voice carried confidence that Maya envied. "Our greatest achievements came from working with each other, not from overpowering everything else." Maya built on Jackson's statement. "Delegates, humanity's request is simple. We want to join galactic civilization as partners, not conquerors. We want to learn from your knowledge and contribute our capabilities to shared goals. Dr. Thax activated her presentation system again, displaying new data that had arrived during the assembly session. Honor delegates, I have received preliminary reports from the Human Integration Pilot Program that began last month. Maya felt a surge of interest. The pilot program had placed small groups of human students at academies across the galaxy, with careful monitoring of both their performance and the social dynamics around their presence. The results have been remarkable, Dr. Thax continued. Human students have indeed demonstrated exceptional physical capabilities as expected. However, they have also shown exceptional collaborative abilities. In mixed species team challenges, groups including humans have achieved results that exceed the sum of their individual capabilities. The presentation screens displayed footage from various academy locations. Maya watched humans working with alien teammates on engineering projects, exploration simulations, and diplomatic scenarios. In every case, the human students seemed to serve as force multipliers for their teams rather than dominant individuals. Most significantly, Dr. Thax added, human students have demonstrated remarkable adaptability in learning to moderate their capabilities to match their teammates' abilities. They appear to instinctively understand the importance of maintaining team cohesion over individual achievement. Delegate Morthak of the Heavy World Alliance activated his communication systems, his massive stone form shifting with geological slowness. Dr. Thax, what implications does this research suggest for galactic exploration and colonization efforts? Dr. Thax consulted her data collection. Delegate Morthak, preliminary assessments suggest that human capabilities could enable exploration of worlds previously considered too hostile for galactic civilization. Class 10 through 15 hostile environment worlds might become accessible with human expertise. The implications rippled through the assembly hall. Maya realized that this was the crucial moment, when the conversation shifted from whether humans were too dangerous to whether they might be exactly what galactic civilization needed. Delegates, Maya said, seizing the momentum, Earth would like to propose a formal partnership agreement with the Galactic Education Consortium. Human students would attend academies throughout the galaxy, learning about your civilizations while sharing our capabilities. In return, we would work together to expand the boundaries of galactic exploration and development. She paused, looking directly at Delegate Vashtar. We're not asking you to trust us because we're weak. We're asking you to trust us because we understand what strength means and how it should be used. The Zelnoxi moderator called for formal consideration of the proposal. Maya watched as delegates across the assembly hall engaged in rapid consultation with their respective governments. The outcome of these conversations would determine whether humanity joined galactic civilization as partners or remained isolated on their distant, hostile world. Jackson leaned over to whisper, "Think they'll go for it?" Maya watched the deliberations, seeing genuine consideration rather than fear in many of the delegate responses. I think we're about to find out what humanity means to the galaxy. 3 hours later, the Galactic Education Consortium voted 847 to 23 to approve the Human Integration Partnership, with 67 abstentions. Maya felt tears she had not expected as the results were announced, realizing that humanity had just taken its first formal step into the galactic community. As delegates began filing out of the assembly hall, Delegate Vashtar approached Maya and Jackson directly. His four-legged stance suggested formal respect rather than the defensive posture he had maintained earlier. Miss Chun, Mr. Williams, he said carefully, the Andalite Confederation would like to propose an exchange program between our military academies and your educational institutions. We believe there is much we could learn from each other. Maya grinned, remembering her terror at that first gym class when she had accidentally outperformed Andalite warriors. Delegate Vashtar, I think that sounds like an excellent idea. 6 months later, Maya stood once again in a gymnasium. But this time, she was surrounded by a mixed group of human and alien students, all working together on a cooperative obstacle course designed to challenge every species' unique capabilities. She watched Jackson helping a Quellian student navigate a strength-based challenge, while an Andalite teammate provided tactical coordination. Nearby, a human student from a newest exchange group was learning aquatic techniques from a Theshan partner. Professor Kethvar approached, his expression showing the satisfaction of successful innovation. Miss Chun, the integration protocols are exceeding every projection. Mixed species teams are achieving performance levels we never imagined possible. Maya nodded, feeling a deep satisfaction that had nothing to do with athletic achievement. She had come to Celestial Academy hoping to learn about alien civilizations and maybe pursue a career in diplomacy. Instead, she had helped birth a new era of galactic cooperation, one that recognized that strength and vulnerability could coexist, that diversity of capability enriched rather than threatened civilization, and that the most powerful force in the galaxy was not any single species' exceptional abilities, but